We're all pretty aware that the Black Ops 6 into Warzone integration was a little bit funky to say the least, but apparently there's a big reason as to why that is, and from a video by the Tactical Brit, he actually talks about that exact reasons. But I also have a massive list of things that I have gone through and noted myself that should actually show you all the wrongs and all the rights that came with this update.
If your experience with Black Ops 6's version of Warzone has been less than positive or a bit of a mixed bag, you're not alone. And the reason for it is probably going to boggle your mind a little bit, because it definitely sent my head for a spin. And no, I'm not just talking about one specific thing that's broken, like audio, which is definitely having its issues. There is actually an overarching reason in the underlying code for Call of Duty as to why Black Ops 6's version of Warzone feels so backwards.
Okay, so basically he's saying that it's not just there's problems, it's there was a big screw up, an overarching screw up, basically. And also, I would like to say I've watched just like a couple of minutes of this so far, and I realized I really needed to share this with y'all.
Now,
So
granted,
that's why we're
Black
here.
Ops 6's integration has some good positives, and we will talk about that in this video, because there are some quality of life changes that were sorely needed and feel like a step in the right direction. But after doing some fairly rigorous testing myself, I've actually found that there is more than meets the eye to Black Ops 6's integration of Warzone, and we have to talk about it today. If you enjoy this video, please do drop a like, consider subscribing. I'm on the road to 200k subscribers, and quite frankly, I've been doing all sorts of videos in the COD space lately that have been phenomenally supported by you guys, and I tip my hat to you. So many of you may remember that when Black Ops 6 announced its integration with Warzone, there was a bit of a head-scratching segment in the overarching post. It said that as part of Black Ops 6's Warzone integration, we would be returning to the old version of Urzikstan. And it's because obviously the new...
Which I would like to say, off rip, it like just really pissed off, I feel like, most people, because there was no reason from a player's perspective to do that. So whenever they changed it backwards and didn't like try and build a new version of the map, that felt very dumb, to say the least.
New version of Black Ops 6 is on a slightly different engine to what Modern Warfare 3 was operating on. And they are two entirely different code bases. That is why Warzone, prior to the integration of Black Ops 6, had to be launched from an entirely separate client and wasn't part of COD HQ. There is
that
an
makes
audio
sense.
system, there was
also a lot of problems connecting the two in general. If you didn't know, like if you, when Black Ops 6 was released, you actually couldn't rejoin matches in Warzone because they broke that mechanic because of the way that you had to launch through multiple launchers. So it was actually a bigger mess than most people realized.
a new anti-cheat at a kernel level. There is basically a whole new code base that separates Modern Warfare 3 and Black Ops 6, even though they have some shared common values. But what if I told you it extended beyond just revisions to Urzikstan? Because having done some testing and played in a bunch of private and custom lobbies to try and figure out what's going on,
I'm a little confused about that because I have no idea how you played in private and custom lobbies whenever they don't exist for Warzone, but I digress. It's just one thing they got rid of, so I'm sure he's maybe talking about like multiplayer.
it isn't just the map. The map was just a random byproduct of having to roll back the engine. What's really broken in Black Ops 6's version of Warzone is that they have rolled back a number of quality of life changes that were made during the Modern Warfare 3 edition of Warzone that has not only completely chalked things like audio and aiming, but has also completely torched frame rate and performance. So
Yeah.
if you're wondering what I'm...
No joke. I don't know if you've played Area 99 yet or Urzikstan, but your frames basically dropped like 70 frames. If you had above like 150, sometimes you just drop to like 60 or 50. It is super weird.
I'm talking about. I'm going to give you a list of changes in Modern Warfare 3, things that were fixed that are now broken. And I'm going to start with audio, because audio is something that has been a huge negative for the vast majority of people on the internet.
Before he dives into that, I know that a lot of people are having issues with audio right now, and what you'll notice is that the way the audio works is that it bounces off of the stuff around you, right? It'll literally, like if you're running beside a wall, it'll bounce off the wall and you're going to hear your own footsteps. The same goes for your teammates, which is going to make your teammates like footsteps double the loudness, so it's going to make you think that other people are around you when there's actually no one there. On top of that, players above you actually sound like they're to the side of you, which is another big issue.
Now, granted, I did end up cooking a lot of you, saying that it was just you using sound equalization and it actually wasn't that bad. But after doing some testing, I will happily put my hands up and say I was dead wrong. A number of significant audio fixes are entirely missing in this codebase for Black Ops 6. The first one is audio priority on players. During the lifecycle of Modern Warfare 3, there was a change that was made that deliberately reduced...
So read what this says. It says allied sounds reduce the volume of friendly slides, jumps, and lands to better distinguish between friendly and enemy behaviors.
The volume and audio of your own footsteps, your own effects like reloading, and all of your teammates around you. And this was a deliberate change.
It's also what people like Art is War got rid of in the audio tune. It's something that was already really loud, and what helped to make the audio tuning that you hear a lot of streamers have, it made it a little bit better because they had that specifically tuned. You could turn off all your front end audio, which was just your person, and it would make everybody else loud while you were quiet. So that's really the biggest difference. And now you actually, even with the audio tune, can't do that. So pretty much everybody's on the same playing field with audio being god awful right now.
Reason for it is because when your character emits too much audio in your headphones, it clogs up the audio priority system. That's now gone. So you will hear your own parachute, your own stomping, your teammates' parachutes mantling and stomping at pretty much maximum volume. So this fix that existed in Modern Warfare 3 has been completely rolled back. And this gets exponentially worse when you combine it with the new spatial audio and head-related transfer function.
Which is what I was talking about just a second ago.
This audio should give you better positional audio by definition, and it absolutely should be operating in a way that's greatly meant to improve the audio systems within Warzone. But as a result of them not transferring over this fix in the Modern Warfare 3 era, you're now hearing your own audio so loudly in the spatial audio space and reverb from that audio so loudly that you basically can't hear a thing that's going on from any other footstep, any other reload, or anything else in the game.
That's absolutely what I've been noticing and what I will keep fussing about when it comes to this new update, at least on the audio end.
Alone when you start layering on things like kill streaks in the distance and all of these other things that happen in the game, like gunfire. Right now,
I'm sorry, I know I said I wasn't going to pause that much, but I will say there is a setting that you can go to in your audio. I just saw it on Twitter, but go through your settings. It should be like something for like people that are hearing impaired, but what it does is it cuts out that background audio for things that are far away. So if you've got a PA in the distance, it'll get rid of it. Go through all your audio settings to figure it out. I wish I knew off the top of my head, but it might be worth it for you to change.
That one fix alone is pretty much the reason you can't hear a damn thing and why you can't hear other people's footsteps. Here's another change in Modern Warfare 3 that hasn't been ported across to Black Ops 6. Now, during the Modern Warfare 3 era of the game, a really fundamental improvement was made to the audio priority of kill streaks, because it was found in my testing and in some of my experiments that you would hear kill streaks called in as far away as 400 or 500 meters, even though they absolutely had zero chance of affecting you.
Dude, it's so far away. Oh my God. Like it's all the way over there. Brother, that was 600 meters away, not 500.
Didn't get ported across? That exact change. You can now hear a cluster strike that's been called in from 500 meters away, the other side of the map, and it will be in your audio priority mix and will be prioritized over footsteps. This fix was made in Modern Warfare 3 that not only reduced the sound of kill streaks and took them out of the audio priority queue for things like footsteps, it's gone. It's not in the Black Ops 6 code. Based on my testing, you will hear airstrikes, mortar strikes, and other kill streaks from several miles away for absolutely no particular reason.
And it really makes you wonder, like, who was in charge? Like, was it Raven Software? Was it Treyarch or Sledgehammer? Who was it that was in charge of putting all of these things together that like there must have been a huge lack of communication on the big quality of life changes. And I wish that these companies would work together a little bit better to figure out, like, what did we do that we need to make sure is in the game that made players' lives better? And that I feel like it always gets forgotten whenever it comes to things like audio. They just, every time they update the game, or settings, like, why do settings break every single time there's an update? It just makes no sense to me.
So in the process of developing this new engine for Black Ops 6, all of these quality of life changes that were in the pipeline had not been ported over. And it isn't just necessarily a Call of Duty issue. This is something that used to plague the Battlefield franchise many, many years ago. Battlefield, in response to that, created a development team called Battlefield Central Technology that is in charge of making sure that fixes and engine fixes transfer between games.
Oh, I love that idea.
Very clearly have not done that. And if you want another example of that, the actual transfer of Urzikstan itself is kind of busted. I can't tell whether the character models for Black Ops 6 are smaller, or if the physical camera at which your character faces out into the world has changed, but Urzikstan feels bigger by accident. It feels like the scaling is off by like 30%. So if you've been wondering why it looks like the map has been designed for Gary Barlow's son, you're probably correct.
I don't know who that is, but okie dokie.
Visually, something has changed, and I think it's a great indicator of the underlying jank that seems to have occurred from Black Ops 6 being in development at the same time as Modern Warfare 3, making...
Which, to be clear, is why these separate cycles is actually a problem, and them releasing games every single year instead of just building on a game and making it better. Like, that is the big problem, is that every single company wants to do something super different. And then here we are, because no one speaks amongst these companies.
Substantial engine changes. And because of all of this, there's lots of other glitches that have re-entered the fray that you may remember from the Modern Warfare 3 or even Modern Warfare 2 era.
And weapons got reverted to, like nerfs and
there
buffs.
is the memory leak that turns grass and mud textures into looking like Play-Doh or clay. That is back in the game. Mouse input and latency is also really spotty. In the base client for Black Ops 6, mouse input feels really solid and actually quite responsive depending on whether or not you're using legacy input. In Warzone, it seems to be very up and down. Sometimes it seems to be great, other times it seems to be terrible. Another change from Modern Warfare 3 was centering. It was deliberately changed so that sway and centering would...
Dude, this is... Okay, I need y'all to realize how big of a deal this is. This affects every player, but specifically mouse and keyboard players. I don't play on mouse and keyboard anymore, but this right here was one of the biggest reasons I chose to switch to controller, because centering doesn't matter as much because you're aiming with assistance basically on controller. But when you're on mouse and keyboard, obviously it still affects you on controller, but when you're on mouse and keyboard and you ADS, you sit that center dot directly on their head beforehand. That's what you do. That's what makes mouse and keyboard good, is that you pre-aim to the person, and then when you ADS, you should be right where you ADS, but that's not what happens. That's never what happens with Call of Duty now, because they set it up to where you have a randomized ADS sway. So as you're ADSing, you were right in the middle of a sway, so it would just do like a figure 8, and so you might be here, and then when you get ADS, you're down here, so you're shooting to the left of them, and you completely miss the shot. It's incredibly dumb.
Be removed from the vast majority of weapons to create a better raw mouse input for the vast majority of players. And this would also technically apply to controller as well, because sway and centering does identically affect both platforms, but it's far more noticeable on the KBM input. This change, another really solid quality of life improvement, has not made it across into Black Ops 6. It doesn't exist.
Absurd.
They've tried to fix a couple of things by the looks of things going into Season 1, but again, another core engine change has not made it across. And honestly, performance too. Now, I don't really know what's going on in this category, and I can't tell whether this is by design or not, but it seems like the rendering distance for Urzikstan has been set to maximum and maximum detail. My performance in Urzikstan has gone from damn near 300 frames in places to pretty much just falling off a cliff. I'm talking maybe a 30 to 40% performance impact, and your mileage may vary depending on the type of card that you're using. So universally across the board, a number of...
For the record, I have a 4090 in my gaming PC, and I have dropped like 70 frames, and I was only getting like 155. So It's a little goofy.
Key and significant changes, especially to the core engine base of Modern Warfare 3, have just not made it into Black Ops 6. They're not part of Season 1. I highly doubt they'll be part of Season 1 Reloaded. And we've taken 2 steps forward, and there are some good quality of life changes in this game, and 5 steps back. If you think of Modern Warfare 3 as version 0.0 to version 1.0, we're basically somewhere around 0.2. This game has been pretty much taken back near a year and a half in terms of quality of life. That's really stripped away key fundamentals of how this game's operated and how it's significantly improved over past iterations of Warzone. So that's the first major buck stop. The first major part of why everything feels wrong, why centering feels wrong, why mouse input feels spotty, why audio feels chalked, why character scaling on Urzikstan feels wrong, is that this port just hasn't accounted for a number of really important changes that
like any updates. And I don't know if he really gets into it in a minute because he's 9 minutes in right now, but there are literal weapons that receive nerfs and are now so far above the rest of the weapons in the game. Like the RAL MG got a nerf for the Jack Protein, but that nerf got reverted, so now it's a 2-tap. A lot of stuff's like that. It's not just that one thing. So if you're struggling with things that you got used to, and now all of that stuff we got used to is now reverted all the way back to as far back as they could get it, which is literally the release of Urzikstan. Things that were messed up at the release, like that's where we're at right now. We literally reverted. There's no way to we are there. That's what it is.
Modern Warfare 3 has made over the last year, and credit to Sledgehammer and Raven for making them. But the next big thing is that generally speaking, there seems to be a lot of inconsistency in Black Ops 6's performance. And I'm not just talking about frame rate. Damage multipliers for weapons seem to be all over the place. And if you look online, opinions about time to kill range from it's too slow to it's way too fast. Now, I don't know what's occurring for this. I haven't managed to do enough testing to validate what appears to be going on. But if I was to hazard a guess, I would say that weapons don't have the correct values for plates in some instances, or are ignoring the values that they're supposed to have for plates in some instances.
Yeah,
it's difficult to say for sure, and I need to do more testing to validate all of this. But right now, shooting somebody with something like a Model L in one situation and then in a second situation, by the looks of things, produces 2 radically different time to kills.
Yeah.
It could be how they're handling hitboxes, it could be how they're handling damage ranges, but I'd be willing to bet it's something to do with multipliers that's not registering correctly. I've already touched on spatial audio, but arguably one of the most disappointing parts of all of this is that the spatial audio engine, if it had the Modern Warfare 3 fixes, is actually really, really good. Now, I know this sounds really tongue-in-cheek, and I know a lot of you are going to be like, he said the audio's good, take him down. Hang on a second. Now, if you strip back all of the Modern Warfare 3 changes, and you...
Especially that now we have to pay for it.
You don't make any noise yourself, and you just listen around to the soundscape, you can actually see that the spatial audio engine, with the correct adjustments, will be phenomenal. You can get PUBG-style audio where you can identify the distance at which a gunfight is happening on a different side of the map over range really, really accurately now. And that's something I've wanted to see in COD for a long, long time.
I've never thought of that.
Because they didn't copy over all of the good changes from Modern Warfare 3, it's been completely muddied, it's a total mess, and spatial audio is not working well. And right now, I would highly recommend in Warzone turning off enhanced headphone mode and HRTF until fixes are made. And then on top of that, we have the usual integration jank of certain attachments not working properly, certain blueprints not working properly, loadouts seemingly resetting at random. And unfortunately...
Oh my god, the number of times I had to back out of a game because of all of this, because nothing was working, and I got my, like, banging game, 6 kills deep before I even get my loadout. You get the loadout, pops out the wrong gun. You're like, mother... bro, like, what are we doing? Like, that's how I feel every single time. And I'm like, all right, well, sorry, Pipe, we gotta back out, bro. My bad, I gotta go get a different gun. And he's like, oh, what? I'm on a 10-kill game. I'm like, brother, I'm sorry. It's Call of Duty, not me.
Unfortunately, I have to say I have encountered cheaters already. Granted, it wasn't a huge amount across 12 hours of gameplay, but
I don't know if you noticed it, but at the very beginning of this video, he was literally reporting a guy that was locking to his head.
One entire team just straight up rage hacking with seemingly no ban in place. The The last thing I'll say in terms of things that just haven't made sense, before I touch on some of the good things, because there are some really good things in Black Ops 6 that are worth talking about, is that it's a shame to me that in order to get the fluidity that Black Ops 6 can provide, you have to dig through 30 different menus. If you want a really fluid experience in Black Ops 6, enable prioritize interact under your combat settings, turn off...
I'm going to give it to you straight. What he's saying right now does not matter. That enable, prioritize, interact, I'm going to get into my whole list of problems, but that is a singular... I don't even know why he brought it up, because it doesn't work. like at all. That setting specifically, your priority settings make no difference. If you have a gun beside you, or you have a chest beside you, and you are standing still, you will always pick up what's on the ground. There's no way around it. You will not reload. Everything that you can pick up will be picked up if you try to reload by pressing your square button or whatever the hell that is on Xbox.
Turn off tactical sprint interrupting your reload in the settings. And also enable sprint assist, but not necessarily automatic tac sprint, and change tac sprint to single tap. You'll get pretty much the best of both worlds in terms of sliding, whilst also being able to tac sprint at a whim by clicking into your analog stick once. The same applies to mouses as well and keyboards. A single tap of the button will change it. But there's something to be said about the fact that you need to bury through 35 different menus and understand how 3 key settings can entirely change the fluidity of...
It's incredibly gross, to be quite honest. And a lot of these things should be on by default. The developers... I'm going to say something a little weird, but the developers should absolutely be a little bit more in touch with what is going on in the community. If they see a content creator says that you should absolutely turn this on, and it's like you literally cannot play the game properly if you don't have it turned on, shouldn't even be an option. At that point, you literally, like, it either shouldn't be an option or it should be by default turned on. And they're fixing a lot of this, but like, dude, who is play testing these games and they're like, yeah, it's all right, it's pretty good, it seems good, I think we send it, I think we should send it. It just doesn't make sense.
How Warzone works in order for you to experience the game. They should just be this way by default. Right now, you can instantly loot things off the ground almost instantly and perfectly with no problems at all. You can loot really fast, you can plate really quickly, you can do all of this without...
Well, that's not true. Plating is 50% slower.
Without being interrupted.
And you can't do it while running.
Interrupted by various animations, and it's just not available to people because it's buried in settings and it feels clunky and it feels weird. There are lots of really good changes in Black Ops 6's version of Warzone that make it a fun experience. Omni movement by itself with the right settings
he's reloading and
he
can't grab that?
And I genuinely...
Never mind, he has a big game bounty. My bad.
Couldn't picture Warzone without Omni movement going forward. You can now pick up self-revives if you're downed and there's one on the floor nearby you. Live pings have had their duration cut from 3 seconds to 2 to make more balanced combat. There is even things like...
The self-revive thing just blew my mind.
Like plate replacement, which has been increased in speed. There are lots of really...
But the issue is they increase the speed at which you do this, right? You're faster at doing that, but then you physically cannot move. You are frozen while you are putting on plates, and that is a massive issue.
Thoughtful quality of life changes, like increasing the overall amount it takes to revive somebody to make combat experiences feel a bit more like the original Warzone and make downs feel rewarding as opposed to people pulling out 6 self-revives from their backpacks.
Right, but if you lower the amount of self-revives that a player has, then it shouldn't necessarily be slower, especially when you look at things like solos, where if you have a self-revive, it makes it pointless. Like, literally, it makes it pointless if you have a selfie, because there's no way you're going to get up, because someone can run to you in the amount of time, like, at like 100 meters, these can run to you in the amount of time that it takes you to get back up.
And backpacks and inventory systems are entirely gone, so you actually...
And I didn't think I'd like that, but I do.
We have to have gunfights instead of spamming 16 grenades and 4 airstrikes in order to win a fight. You can get unlimited tac sprint by switching out to your knife, which is a really nice change. And they seemingly have solved the issue of things like lag whilst interacting with items and interacting with the buy station, so long as you are using the prioritize interact experience button that I've referenced before. The game in a lot of ways feels phenomenally better, and then in other ways, and ways that matter the most, like audio, feels phenomenally worse. And it's really frustrating that we're going into this sort of crescendo again of backwards and forth and things just not working correctly. I think if I'm Call of Duty, I need to start thinking more long-term here. You know, there are no excuses for this anymore. I understand from a technical standpoint as somebody who has worked.
All right. Hear me out. There aren't any excuses, right? There aren't. But at no point has Call of Duty ever shown us that they genuinely care, right? There may have been once, I think there was. I think it was like the Season 3 update with Urzikstan. They fixed everything, right? They did. But there was a ton of issues that came with that update. They fixed all of that stuff within a week, right? Since then, we've had 0 updates. None whatsoever for Urzikstan. We've had nothing for Big Map. And then I guess the devs are over there looking at Resurgence like, oh yeah, baby. You're gonna love this one, big man. Like, I just, I can't quite fathom it. But the thing is at no point have they proved to us that they genuinely care to fix these things. It's just what can make us the most amount of money the fastest, and then we can repeat it every year. And that's what I think is going to continue to hurt Call of Duty. And until we see some kind of shift, it's just going to stick like that. So I don't know what the shift is. We have not figured out what the shift is going to be because we thought it was hurting their wallets. But the issue is after COVID, now everybody games. So they almost had a reason to fix it with the stuff that they were producing, and then COVID happened, and they got the biggest bump they've ever gotten ever. And then we thought it was going to get fixed with Warzone 2. Nope, didn't fix it. So it just, they don't care is the issue. And I say this as someone that has made content on Call of Duty for 14 years. I've seen the ups, I've seen the downs, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
With game developers who has been paid for to talk to game developers about certain things and expectations, and understands how these engines fundamentally work. That going from an older build to a newer build has probably been a lot of work for the development team. They've also decoupled the files from Warzone from the base game. Has also probably been a lot of technical debt.
Which is
but
good.
The reality is, to the average player who is picking up Black Ops 6 and trying the new version of Warzone...
Look, hey, sorry, I need to be very clear. I am not saying the devs don't care. That is not what I'm saying. This always gets thought that, like, people always think that I'm talking directly about the developer, like the person that sits and works on the code and stuff like that. Most of the time, they don't have enough time to do all the things that they know are going to fix it. It's usually people above them that are like, no, let's just get this shit out. All right, we got to just hurry it up, okay? Because if we don't hurry it up, then we're not going to make our earnings for the investors. All right, buddy? So we got to just get it going. Like, that is the person I'm talking about. I'm never talking about the person that's literal. And I will say some of them are pieces of garbage. Actual developers are pieces of garbage. I've dealt with it, like, firsthand, of developers just whining and griping. But the vast majority, I'm going to say 95% of them, are incredible people who care about the product that they're producing. But just like in a lot of other professions, that 5% will make them look bad. Also, the higher ups are going to make them look bad, and they end up taking the brunt of it, which kind of sucks.
They are once again witnessing yet another integration. I don't know how many there's been now, maybe 4 or 5, that just seems to be a total mess. And if they keep doing this, and every large integration becomes an excuse for the game to take 10 steps backwards, Call of Duty Warzone will be replaced. And I genuinely do believe a solid Battlefield Battle Royale is definitely taking full aim at this game right now. Because we're talking about another 4 to 6 months for them to resolve things that were already fixed in the first place.
Yeah.
I'd say for me as a content creator, the last 24 hours have been super disappointing. There have been some really great changes that I've really enjoyed. Identifying loot on the floor is easier, picking it up is easier. The fact the inventory system is gone fundamentally changes the way Warzone plays and makes it more competitive. We don't have 17 self-revives anymore, 45 different airstrikes. The game makes a lot of changes that makes the game more like a battle royale, more competitive, makes it more thoughtful, but just absolutely throws all of it out the window by taking every inch of quality of life and dumping it. Last night, I was willing to say that this update felt like an 8 out of 10, and it did for me at the time. You know, there was generally some
I agree with that. I was winning games on games on games.
natural physics that felt better for vehicles. Character lighting felt a little bit better. Just, you could see base quality improvements that were really good. But within the space of 10 hours, you...
Holy schmoly, did you see how fast he got obliterated by the guy on his right while he was shooting at the guy up top?
really notice all of the stuff that's gone missing. And if my testing's anything to go...
And the guy up top killed him.
What? There's a number of QO out.
What is the desync on that? Oh my god, it didn't look like that at all on his screen. And the guy on the side didn't even shoot him on his screen. What the hell?
And probably won't until maybe season 2, season 3.
Yep.
That's about it for this
Christmas break screws us every time.
video today, folks. This isn't just a video of me dunking on Call of Duty. You know, I want this game to be fun, and I really do support Call of Duty heading in the right direction. But there's just things that don't make sense here. I mean, you can't even customize your UI in Warzone, a promised feature from day one.
Yep.
There's just a lot missing and a lot that needs to be fixed in a very short space of time. As always, folks, thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you again in the next one. Please do make sure you drop a like and subscribe. We're on the road to 200K.
We did it. We done did do it. All right, here's the deal. Here is the deal. So I actually have my own list. You can see I have new Warzone bad. Okay, and you can read this on your own, obviously. But then I have new Warzone good. So I have a bunch of good. I have a bunch of bad. We're gonna run through this, and I kind of want to explain what's going on here. Okay, so the first thing is this. Okay, I'm just gonna zoom in. So the first thing is this: the movement is somehow slower and less fluid, which, like he said, what that is the movement getting reverted back to how it was way back in the day when Modern Warfare 3 first launched Warzone. So that's what that is. Mantling is ridiculously slow, slower than it was whenever the new Modern Warfare 3 came out with Warzone 3. So that's super goofy. It's actually the same way that it is in Black Ops 6. Mantling somehow is 10 times slower. I don't understand it. Armor plating is technically faster doing this, but isn't faster while you're moving. So you end up in a tough situation where if you try and play it up, you actually are more likely to die during a gunfight because you can't move. So it's like you almost have to force fight people with no plates. I don't know. It's a little goofy. I'm going to zoom in just a hair more. You can also get forced into armor plating because it won't stop. It just keeps armor plating. Or if you pull out your knife, you get shot and you go to armor plate, what ends up happening is that you can't switch your weapon while you're armor plating sometimes. So you will have a knife out and you're plating up, trying to run and plate, and you can't switch to your other gun so that you can engage in the gunfight, and then you just die. Like, there's just no way around it. I think another big problem that adds into the speed at which you fight people in the game and the speed at which you can make engagements are the magazines, which is what I have on your screen. Obviously, I say flip mags and fast mags should be good, right? They should be good. But the issue is you only have 30 bullets. If you've ever played Warzone, you know 30 bullets just isn't enough. There's no way around it. 30 bullets, if you use a flip mag, then if you use a fast mag, you only get 20 bullets. It's insane. What is that? What kind of dumb stuff is that? We have no sleight of hand. So if you're going to take away sleight of hand, you can't make flip mags and fast mags incredibly bad. Okay. You can see that I have written down inconsistent TTKs. Obviously, he talked about that. Inconsistent audio. He talked about that. And then in my opinion, I don't believe that we have enough plates by default. I think 8 is the minimum. We are at a point where 8 has become the minimum in Warzone. And the reason why I believe this, frankly, is because when you get into a gunfight, your plates instantly get ripped. It's so fast. It is so very fast that having 6 plates one gunfight, especially in duos, you're out of plates. You're begging your teammate, because what happens is you'll get into a gunfight and they will always try and solo one person out. That's how Warzone works. Frankly, it's how it should work. But if you are the one that gets ripped and your teammate is more than 3 meters away, or they're also trying to shoot to get people off your ass, then you're pretty much guaranteed to be plateless, which puts you at a disadvantage. So you can't reset a gunfight now, which makes it really, really crappy. The next thing is the new loadout system is incredibly weird. I've written down some kind of just my thoughts here, but the new loadout system is a little weird. Just realistically, a lot of it doesn't make sense. A lot of it will just break. So one, they got rid of favorite attachments. So you can't favorite any attachments to come back to it later and just grab that every time you make a loadout, because realistically, you are gonna want your favorite attachments. But the reason that those don't exist is because they messed up the loadout system. And I'm going to talk about this a little bit. I don't even know if I wrote it on here. I don't think I did. But if you didn't know, with double XP tokens, multiplayer unlocked for Black Ops 6, playing the tiniest maps with a 2+ kill death ratio, it took me, I'm not joking, over 45 to 50 hours to unlock every single attachment. I'm not kidding. That means that if you were to hop in Warzone or you were to hop in Plunder, it will take you, without double XP, 100 hours if you are a ridiculously good player, right? Every gun, you have to unlock each individual attachment. That means that you can't favorite attachments on one, because the attachment on gun A is not technically, most likely in the code, the same attachment as gun B. It would be like, I have a Jackal foregrip that is the Ranger foregrip that is coded in as Jackal's foregrip, and then I have the, I don't know, like the Krig foregrip, the Ranger foregrip. It's coded in as the Ranger foregrip. So favoriting attachments probably just won't work based on how that they've set up the way that you unlock attachments and things like that. It's very stupid. So whether or not people think it's better that you can just unlock one gun fully and get all the attachments is one thing, but I think it is a step backwards, in my personal opinion. The perks aren't actually perks. They don't really help you in many ways. If you have Mountaineer, the Mountaineer perk, I think it's called Dexterity. If you use that perk, it does help you. Don't get me wrong, but if I'm not wrong, I think they lowered the amount that Mountaineer works. So used to, you could drop 17 meters. I think they took that down to 14 or 15, which is only like 3 meters more. Right, or 3 meters less. Actually, I think it was 34. So it was 34, and then they like dropped it by like 6 or something like that. So it's a lot less, is my point. So that really sucks whenever you try and use that and you're taking damage on things you really shouldn't be taking damage on. And then some perks just don't work. Plain and simple. That is a stupid thing that happens, that you will go to use a... Let's go full screen. Can I go F11 here? No? Okay. I didn't want to go full screen. F it. We'll just... Anyway. So some perks just won't work. Plain and simple. Like Ghost sometimes just is the only perk that works. Bird's Eye doesn't always work. I think sometimes Dexterity, Gung Ho, things like that will just have random slip-ups where they just don't do what they're supposed to do. And maybe that's a movement issue or a map issue or something like that, and the perk's actually doing its thing, but everything else is not working. But there's no way that we can know that, right? He talked about it, but constant loadout weapon resets. You'll literally see loadout weapons reset all the time. You'll go into a match and then you'll get out of the match and your gun will be reset, but you don't check it every single match. So if you click play again, you might get into the next game, you got a different gun. No idea how that happened. Completely different weapon. If you're anything like me and you like to switch out your weapon every other game, guess what? You're going back to the other gun. Sorry, bud. You're SOL. My bad, big mans. It is what it is. Also, I don't know if you saw it, but actually above my camera, there's a double XP token code if you wanted to input that on callofduty.com/redeem. Wouldn't be upset. Anyway, so you have to remember to change it every single game. The riot shield is gone, which I think is a great feature, but they should not have done that without telling people they were going to do that, because in the patch notes, they actually said that the riot shield was going to be there. It was going to be in the melee weapons section. So I don't know what happened there. And then, like he said, you no longer spawn in with base perks. That means you're not going to run as fast. You're not going to plate as fast. You're not going to you're not going to be able to plate while running. All these perks that were great, you no longer have, which is super dumb. I don't know what that's about. I don't know why we couldn't have implemented that whenever it happened, but then they threw those base perks in as perks that you have to use, which is this Warzone 2? Are we playing Warzone 2 again? Sniper flinch is insane. Snipers are cool. We'll talk about that in a minute, but sniper flinch, if you get shot a single time, you're looking almost at the sky. It's really rough, no matter what attachment you put on. It's boom, just like that. It is absolutely goofy. If you've ever used your melee weapon, which is really good, by the way, pulling out your melee weapon and running for sprint forever is great. But you have to press and hold your melee button on your analog stick for like 3 seconds. Otherwise, after like a second and a half, you'll just punch the sky. It's really rough. And if you're trying to use it quickly, it takes you out, man. It really does take you out. So I'm not a big fan of that. It's impossible to memorize the order of your weapons. If you're on controller, it's not something we've ever had to think about. 1, 2, 3 is your melee weapon. I'm never going to memorize that this weapon is in this slot. If I'm on ground loot, that doesn't make any sense. So you can't use weapon cycle to do it so that it's faster, because then it'd be tap, tap, I'm on it. But then if you're on your second weapon and you tap, tap, you're going to be on your SMG. So like none of it makes any sense if you try to do that. It is what it is. But the next thing is operators reset unless you're using a Black Ops 6 character. So you get out of a game, you just had on your Black Noir skin, resets down to the default skin. Weird. Spectating sucks worse than before. If you watched my spectating video yesterday, you can see that it got worse somehow. How did that happen? I have no idea. Call of Duty loves us there. So that's a fun thing. The default settings for your settings are terrible. And every single time there's an update, the settings reset, which means that everybody gets incredibly annoyed because they're like, why did I have to go through and spend an hour of my time that I only have 1 hour setting up my settings so that I can, I guess, play the next day? That's very dumb. Why do we keep doing that? Make the default settings better so that people don't have to go through their settings every single time that they try and play the game. Please, for the love of God, Call of Duty, what is this? It doesn't make any sense. I'm not trying to get like super hyped up and freaked out and stuff like that, but it is very, very goofy. I talked about this earlier, but they made it where the interaction priority just doesn't work, even though the Tactical Brit mentioned that you can set it that way, doesn't mean that it works. So it always picks up the items on the ground whenever you're trying to reload. And then also they changed every single menu button. They got us used to these buttons and then they changed them all. They didn't think, you know what we should do? We should match the previous game's menu buttons so that when they're going through their loadout and they want to make a new loadout, they don't press a different button. Or if they want to enter the firing range, they don't press a different button. If they want to turn off proximity chat in the game, they press a different button. What the f, bro? Like, what are we doing? I don't get it. Gas masks are broken again. That's sick. Very happy to have that in my life. If you get hit by the gas, like the fix that they did with gas masks where shung and then shung, where you don't have to pull it off, it just like fades away. Nope, they broke that again. Welcome back, gas masks broken. Yeah, happy to have that back. So I already lost a game to it. It'll be on Expel Plus. You're gonna love that video because I laughed my ass off at the fact that Call of Duty can't make a game. And then you can't share equipment with teammates. Now this is one that isn't a huge deal, but I do tend to drop a smoke for my teammate if they're running like restock, quartermaster in this case. If they're rocking restock, I drop a smoke for my teammate. I drop a thermite for my teammate. Those don't exist anymore, which also kind of sucks. But I will drop those for my teammate so that they can start stocking up on it so that we can both go into a gunfight being able to use our equipment. But not having that in your inventory really, really sucks. So I wish that they'd bring that back so that we could drop it for our teammates. That was really nice. I don't really care if I have all the other stuff able to drop. So just like the regular loadout items that I have. I don't need an inventory. I just need regular loadout items that are always in my loadout. That would be very nice. There's not enough buy stations in the slightest, like at all. Look, like literally, like not only are there not enough buy stations, but they move every single game. They're not stations because they're not stationary. All right. They're just buy places. All right. And they're not even places because they're not guaranteed. What the hell? The prices are all incorrect, by the way. If you go to buy a loadout, sometimes, well, okay, if you go to buy a loadout, you have to have a specific amount of money. But when you buy the loadout, you get money back. It's like they're poor shaming you, is how it literally feels like they're poor shaming you, because you'll go to buy a loadout and you have to have $10,000. But then if you have that $10,000, they're like, yeah, you good. But if you have $7,500, which is what it actually costs, they won't let you have it. What the hell? The gulag closes on Circle 4 now. Fun fact, it closes on Circle 4, which means that less people are going to be in the late game, which I guess is good for people that don't care about getting eliminations. But if you like engaging gunfights at the end of the game, it's going to really suck and it's going to slow things down immensely. I talked about this earlier, I guess, but it does take 100 hours. The delay to eliminate a down player. If you've ever shot at a down player in this update, you'll shoot. And then as they get knocked, you will shoot into nothingness, even though you're shooting into their body. And then after about 2 seconds, you can finally shoot them. The same thing goes with plate boxes. For some reason, you pop them down and they just sit there. They're just chilling. They're like, my boy, I'm gonna wait. You're gonna wait. I know you need plates. And pop. Like, it's super weird. I don't know why we have a delay on armor boxes and munitions, but you literally throw it, wait 2 seconds, and then they pop open instead of how it was before where you throw it, they pop open. That's it. Like, why? Why is that? He talked about in his video, but the texture glitches are stupid. No idea what that's about. They just like made it where every texture in the game is a little bit broken, especially on rocks and grass and trees. Prox chat forces you to listen to every player in the game when you join a game, and then it also doesn't work for proximity, but you do hear random players saying goofy things the whole game. The number of times I've heard a small child talking to its dad and being like, good try, dad, is incredibly cute, but also very sad. Resurgence ends very fast as well, 7 to 10 minutes. It really feels like a TDM, which is what I have written here. It's rough. Like, it is rough, dude. I'm not joking. You will drop in, and within 7 minutes, it's down to 5 players. And then the next 3 minutes are you and a team running back and forth. If like y'all don't get the elimination on one another, it is 3 minutes of you versus one team. If I wanted to do that, I would have played a multiplayer 2v2. Like, friends list favorites don't work. So you'll go into your friends list, you have a person favorited, and it puts them at the bottom. So happy to have that. Radar, if you go into your settings and you turn on an interface, the radar backing, it will get rid of every detail of the map. Obviously, FPS drops, obviously lag spikes, obviously server degradation is absurd. Game freezes, game crashes. Sometimes you can't get into the game. The fact that we have to pay for audio? What are we doing when a game releases a thing and they could have licensed it so that you could have just downloaded a Call of Duty app, scanned your face, and then they could have been chilling. They could have spent the money on it, but instead they're going to force the player base to take on the cost after charging us $70 for the freaking game. Are you kidding me? Oh my God. Like, that right there is always going to, and it's terrible. I don't know if you know this. It's god awful. It's not good. Like, what are we doing? It should have been better. Not really better. So very weird. Either way, there are a lot of good things. Like, there are. You can see right here, I got quite a few good things. Obviously, the bad is more than the good. And the reason why is because they reverted so many good things. Darn it. But when it comes to the good things, I'm very happy about these things. These things that I have here, very good for us. Okay. First of all, zip lines are more fluid. You don't have to worry about whether or not you know how to jump backwards, go over the top. doesn't matter now. You can do it and you'll just mantle on and like climb over. That's cool too. Works fine. But you take the zip line, you just thoing right off of it and your gun's ready. And I love that. The idea of omni movement is very good. The fact that I can sprint left, sprint right, sprint backwards, sprint forwards. They do have different speeds. If you're sprinting forwards, that is always the fastest. Sprinting left and right and backwards, a little bit slower. Backwards is the slowest. Just a heads up. And then I wonder if I can find, there's a tweet from T Captain X where he showed the actual issue, but there's a problem with the tack sprint, or the omni movement. Sorry, T Cap. But there's a problem with the omni movement where it actually doesn't do what it says it's going to do. So like if I go right here and I'll show you what I'm talking about.
Movement feels worse today.
I'll just show you the tweet so that we don't have to watch the whole 2-minute video. But he said, why movement feels bad in Black Ops 6 Warzone. When changing directions frequently, your character will randomly not tack sprint and instead only walk, making your movement feel very clunky. On controller, you have to go to full sprint speed in order to slide and not accidentally crouch, dead slide. It doesn't really matter on mouse and keyboard though. It's kind of what it says right there. Either way, that is a big problem. The fact that 90% of your player base is on controller and you didn't figure out a way to fix the movement issues is kind of goofy in my personal opinion, but it is what it is. It feels very good whenever it's working. Whenever it doesn't work, it does kind of suck. Weapons overall do feel good, even with the inconsistent time to kills. I like the way that the weapons feel. I like the hit marker sounds. I like the sounds that it makes whenever you break armor. There's a lot of things about the weapons that just feel really, really good. Smokes got a nerf. I don't know if you noticed that, but the nerfs on the smokes makes it to where it takes longer to poof up, and then it also doesn't go as high or as wide. You still lose aim assist, but it does allow us to use other equipment. As for other equipment, I'm going to skip down just a hair, but stims are so freaking good. They are so hilariously fun, and I love it because you pop a stim, and you can get 4 of them if you have a what is it, like a munitions vest or whatever kind of vest it is. If you pop a stim, you will literally, you like are a freaking speed demon, bro. You're the Flash when you pop a stim. I love it so much. It is so fun. And I know it's going to add a little bit of a skill gap. And a lot of people aren't going to be able to aim in that close range, but it makes it so good that you can break people's cameras with stims again. I love it so much. I know it's going to get nerfed. But it's so fun, man. New vehicles are great. New vehicles are really good. A lot of people don't like it. I like not having to think about popping tires. I like not having to think about fuel. I also like that the new vehicles are just basically reskins of the old vehicles with better mechanics. It feels better to try and power slide in this. It feels better to have a dirt bike. A single person dirt bike is sick. I don't like the quad. The quad kind of sucks, but everything else is pretty great. The helicopter is miles above what we had before. It feels so good. The only thing I'll say is I have gotten chopped up at least 5 times by someone just throwing the heli on me. Damn it, you know? One of those. But next up, we have snipers. Snipers feel very good. I wish the ADS speed was a little bit better, and I wish the flinch was a little bit better. But the snipers feel so nice. Headshots feel juicy. And if you can hit those shots, if you tune in that ADS speed, it feels incredible. And I'm telling you, it makes such a difference to have the right custom sensitivity per zoom. So just a little heads up. Right now, vests are stackable. I don't know if that's on purpose, but if you try and pick up an extra, like the armor vest, you can hold 12 plates. If you pick up the munitions vest, you can hold 4 equipment. If you pick up whatever the hell that other vest is, then it does that other thing. I don't know about the third vest. I don't remember, but you know what I'm talking about. If you go in your loadouts, for some reason, it auto saves blueprints, and I love that. If you make a loadout, let's say you do have that issue where you get out of the game and it switched to your other guns. You're like, son of a gun, I got to remake the class again. So you go in, you find the gun that you were just on, you click it, and it's there. You just got to click the blueprint that it just made for you. You don't even have to think about saving blueprints. I love that. You can rename the blueprints, but you don't have to think about saving it, which is awesome. Prestiging, super great. It is going to be annoying for Warzone players because I've always been a fan of saying that in Warzone, you should have everything unlocked. But prestiging is really freaking cool, and it gives people a huge reason to grind. Camos are also very cool, and they're not very difficult for the casual player to unlock. You just basically get eliminations, and it'll automatically unlock for you. Dedicated melee giving tac sprint, huge, absolutely massive. And finally, lootable perks are great. So all in all, I think the update, I would give it 2 steps forward, 5 steps back. And I think that's the big issue is that every single time they do an update, it's nice. And then you're like, what the f did you do to the rest of the things that we loved? Why would you break it? So that's my good, bad, and ugly. I think that's pretty much all I got. I appreciate you watching. I appreciate you coming through. I wasn't really here to like whine and gripe. I know that a lot of creators whine and gripe. There are big issues, but I kind of wanted to give you, this is all the bad, just up front. This is all the bad things that you're going to see. All right. I know it seems like a lot, but when you're playing, it really doesn't matter all that much. You're not going to find a lot of issues. Once you get used to it, you're going to adjust. It'll take 2 days, probably a full week for most people, but it'll take a couple of tries. And then once you're used to it, it'll feel like you're just playing the game. That's it. So don't stress too much. I appreciate you watching. I'm sorry if this came across as kind of like whiny and, you know what I'm saying? A little bit of baby bag, you know what I'm saying? So I'm sorry about that, but I appreciate you being here. I hope you have an incredible day. This was a weird video to make. I just pulled up a list of stuff. Subscribe or something. I don't know. Thanks. Love you.